Hello everyone and welcome to the episode 6 from Escalia. In this episode I wanna start a monumental project and this is going to be the piston bolt. It will connect the community nether tunnel here, our farming base here and our mansion base right over there. What is a piston bolt, you might be asking? A piston bolt is a minecart based contraption that allows you to travel very fast. Well, it's actually slower than Elytra, but it is faster than a normal railway, and you need nothing on you to use it. Like that, this world is made by... here's his username, and his world download down in the description. And while each individual piston bolt is directional, there is a variant for every single direction. And for our needs, we will need a straight section, and its redstone is quite simple, I would say. There is nothing hidden under the floor or something like that. Yeah. And also, we will need a diagonal section, which is... well, it's not as easy to build, but it's nothing too special. 50 minutes later and we have a platform that will support our piston bolt. And as you can see over here, our platform is one block lower than the actual floor, and that is because I'm going to encase our nether tunnel with stone completely, simply because in the nether we have... I just wanted to find a ghast. We have ghasts in the nether and their projectiles could potentially damage our tunnel. But stone is too strong for their fireballs and we can use stone to shield our tunnel from the occasional ghast projectiles. I have remembered something. This is Spigot, and this is why I have built this miniature piston bolt to test if it's going to work on this server. And it does! Yeah, this isn't actually a first test I have done on the server, but my previous attempts failed miserably because apparently the direction of a curve of these rails actually matters, and if you would want to build a piston bolt, you would have to pick the right rail pattern. And this is why you design things in the creative world first. I have missed the fact that these stone walls are leaving no space for the decorative walls, and we have to move them one block back because... like... Otherwise piston bolts would technically work, but we have to fix the... Because otherwise piston bolts would technically work, but I want to have a decoration... Because otherwise piston bolts would technically work, but I want to have a decorated... You know what I'm talking about. It would feel too claustrophobic to me. Another pro tip is to use concrete as a placeholder block, because bright concrete feels like it's one of those developer textures. So, for our nether piston bolt we need 9 white area, because we need 5 white area for the bolt itself, then we will have a wall here, and then we will have the cobble encasing. Yeah. And the same for the other side. And in the center we are going to have the rails, the core of the piston bolt, so to speak. And by the way, one cool thing about using concrete powder in the nether is that nobody can accidentally spill the water all over the place and harden your concrete. Our next step is to carve the rails, and for that we need this machine. This is a rail carver. This land machine was showcased by Ilmanga, by the way, link in the iCards. And now we have to update the piston like this. And now this machine will fly and carve the rails for us. Very fine. Oh, fuck. Ah, I need to grab obsidian because we need to stop this machine at the end of a tunnel. Ah, no. I cannot just go to the other side because this machine has to stay loaded to do its job. Well, I'm not actually sure if I would break this machine, but whatever. You might be wondering if I actually know what is going on in this machine, and the answer is... sort of. This on the back is the engine, these two modules in front are for the curving of rails, and this middle module is here to work around the piston push limit. And boom, done! Next we need to place pistons in a pattern like this, and the important thing is how they have to be aligned with rails like so. I mean, it's hard to explain, but I think you can see how rails are curved like that so that the entry point of a mine... Yeah, that's hard to explain, but I think you can find a pattern. So, after placing pistons, you need to place solid blocks behind them, and now we can do this, and that way we can power these pistons from our side, and they will push a minecart. Ah, by the way, here I'm trying to chip out on hidden blocks, like we're playing on a server and farming exacts for black and grey dye is very painful, and I would like to use decorative blocks only when they are visible, but in this particular case we are going to have carpets, for example. Yeah. Also, carpets will help us with spawn-proofing the entire place, because pigment spawning conditions aren't affected by the light level. Now we place a minecart like so, and... it works! It works! Nice. So, we have a functional section. Oh! 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 I have realized something very bad. This boat should lead to the other direction. Well, actually, we need two tunnels. What was... Oh my god, we actually need two boats, right? One that way, and one this way. And there is one more thing to consider. This is the maximum width we are allowed to take, because this is well, I think if we will stack two tunnels on top of each other, it will kind of work. But anyway, I have to redo everything. Okay, not everything is lost. I can use the same carving machine to recover the existing rails the other way around. But these machines are also directional. Well, there is not much of a change, but since we are heading west, we have to place two redstone blocks in front. And it works. Nice. And it curves the rails in the way we want for that direction. To test if you have done it right, you can nudge the minecart manually. And you should get something like this. So, how it is going to be? We go like this, here we have our piston bolt, we will have a minecart sticking right here, and when we make a redstone pulse, we will be moved by the piston bolt. Nice. I had to remove the pistons again, because somewhere over here, yeah, this is what happened. I've got a gas charge in my face. It broke some rails, and by trying to repair that single rail... Well, apparently there is no way to fix one particular rail of a piston bolt. Oh boy, if just one of those rails is messed up, you're screwed. And this, I hate gas. So, basically, the first thing we need to do before anything else is to enclosure the entire thing in stone, and only then we will be able to do the piston bolt itself. And we have some stone donations by... Topaz 1000. Thanks, man, I'll totally put the stone to use. And I have done some progress. Here, the straight section of another tunnel has been encased, and the height of this thing is actually enough to fit two tunnels stuck on top of each other, going in the opposite directions. Alright, I have done the diagonal section of this tunnel. And what I wanna do right now is... I wanna make a schematic of the entire place because I have decided to design the entire piston bolt in my creative world and make sure that everything works. There are so many buts about piston bolts so that you cannot just build things in survival without extensive creative testing. Oh yeah. And if you have expected this video to be some sort of a tutorial, no, and I have expected this as well. So, if you want to build a piston bolt, trust me, you don't. I really hate myself for doing this. But there is no way for me to go back. The first thing I wanna test is where should we start our rail curve, because it will affect the order of curved rails, and that will affect the pistons and crossings, and if we would design them for one order and we will end up with the other order, we will be screwed. See? This is what I'm talking about. We have changed the order of curved rails and now we have the wrong order. If we would have to repair the piston bolt, it would be enough to take down the pistons and rail curver would be able to fit through. Wait a second. I wonder how tall this thing is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, it should fit in our tunnel. So, we have to move this contraption 1 block back. Let's check if it will fit. Yeah, it will. I have launched this machine from a new position and now it should... Yeah, when we have moved the starting point of this flying machine back 1 block, we have got the curvature we need. Nice! So, let's test it. We should end up on top of that powered rail. Uh-huh. And boop. Nice! So, next step we have to launch this thing like this. And at the end of a diagonal curve, which is not directional by the way, we have to place blocks like this to stop our contraption at the end of the piston bolt. Well, not quite. However, it's easy to repair the end of any piston bolt actually, so unless something will go wrong at the beginning, we should be fine. So, I have made a mock-up of everything I will need to test, well, aside of the end stations, but I have a plan for everything else, like rail patterns, intermediate stations and stuff like that. So, test 1, from the community netted tunnel to the farming base. Done. Test 2, from the farming base to the mansion base. Uh-huh. Test 3, from the modern mansion to the farming area. Uh-huh. And test 4, from the farming area to the community tunnel. Very fine. What if I wanna skip a station in the middle and go from the mansion base directly to the community tunnel? Here is the thing, usually you use repeaters to transfer a redstone power, but here we use comparators. The property of a comparator is that we can control the strength of an output, so now we have the strength of 2, but if we will do this, now we have the strength of 1. I think the way we use comparators needs some explanation. Here we have a comparator in a subtraction mode, and by changing the power level coming to the comparators from our side, we can control the power output of a comparator. Let's say we have a signal strength 14 from the back and 13 from this side, and in this case we have the output of 1. If we will have 12 from this side, for example, we will get 2. With 11 we have 3 and so on. So we can control the strength of the comparator output. Next, if we change comparators next to each other, they will keep the exact same signal strength. Like that. And that works with having solid blocks between comparators. And if we will place pistons next to those solid blocks, we will get the piston line of our piston bolt. Nice. And this chain can carry both power and data at the same time, because even signal strength of 1 is enough to power a piston. And by changing the output of this comparator, we can We can take a signal here and we can change the rail rotation depending on the signal. In a current state, a minecart will go like this, which means we will skip the station, but if we would have a signal strong enough, we would be ejected at the station. Yeah, and on the first floor, we have pretty much the same. And once we have been ejected, a minecart will go like that and will be recycled into this dispenser so that we can reuse it at the station. And once we leave the station, that dispenser will place a new minecart. Another thing to check is if it's going to work in the latest versions. Now we're in 1.13.2, but if I'll switch to 1.14.3, we can see that we get stuck here. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why this happens, but we have to redesign things to make it work in 1.14. So, I had to do something like this, and now it actually works. And by the way, basically everything about the rails is a directional thing, and if you want to make a contraption that involves rails, you have to not just design it in creative, but design it with the same directions as you would have it in a survival world. I have also found out that if we have stone right next to the redstone components, there is a chance that gas projectiles will actually blow up the redstone, but if we would have a gap or 2 layers of blocks, we would protect the redstone completely, and then the only threat to this contraption will be players, but not like we can do anything with it. Well, actually, damaged redstone is not a big of a deal because it's quite easy to repair, but the real danger is that if even one of those rails will be destroyed or carved in the other way, we will have to recarve all rails in that section again. Yeah, and it is quite a task because in case of a straight piston bolt we will have to knock out all the pistons and carpets on top, and then we will have to run a carving machine again. And in case of a diagonal piston bolt, while you cannot run a machine, you have enough room to do basically the process manually. It's tedious, but it's not like everything is doom and gloom. Another thing I have came up on my own is the fact that pistons are extended by default, and it is not something what people usually do with them, but I have decided to do this because in this way we can prevent things from spawning, like, let's say we put a slab here because that way we can prevent mobs from spawning. The problem is, it will be visible from the bottom floor, and I don't want it to be that way, and by having pistons being extended by default, we can prevent mobs from spawning in this area while having full blocks in no spots. Alright, I think I have done every single technical bit required for the piston bolt. So, here we have 2 buttons. The right button will send us to the intermediate station. Like that. And the left button will send us to the opposite side. And the same thing on the other side. This button leads us to the intermediate station. And this button will send us to the other station. Wait, what? Well, I have to adjust timings maybe. And of course, we can ride from the intermediate station to both of the other stations. We have 2 floors. On the upper floor we can go only to the left to the community nether tunnel, and on the bottom floor we can go only to our mansion base. It's not 100% convenient, but it's like something we can deal with just having 2 portals in the overworld. Yeah, and here we don't have to have 2 tunnels simply because it is just one-way road. Yeah. And also, I had to compact some redstone in order to make sure that there is no redstone sticking from the side, because somebody might potentially need to build a tunnel right next to me, and on the other side, we have basically the same. However, we have a sticking box around our portals and I have double checked that the map, which is probably I'm going to put on your screen right now, that even if our diagonal tunnel could potentially interfere with other people's plans, it probably won't because there is nothing right in that area, and if somebody would want to build behind this diagonal tunnel, they would connect to the other tunnel anyway. I don't think it is important to explain every single bit of redstone because, as I've said, building a piston bolt is not something you can just do by following a tutorial. You have to know exactly what you're doing, and you have to make dozens of mistakes in a creative world like I did. And also, I have left some space for upcoming decorations, so that we will eventually have cool-looking blocks like that. But unfortunately, this is all I have for you for today. In the next episode, we are going to build this in survival. Time to press like, subscribe and bell buttons and have a night break. And I have to go to bed because it's like 6 AM for me at this moment. Bye bye.